Welcome back to another My Hero Academia anime versus manga video, breaking down season 7 episode 11 titled Light Fades to Rain, sharing the same title as chapter 362, referencing the death of Bakugo. Now the episode begins with Aizawa seeing Shigaraki walking towards Bakugo and shouts to Mandalay for an update on Deku. She states that she can't reach him as the electromagnetic waves caused by the barrier are affecting her comms. Aizawa, worried about Bakugo, shouts that Edshot, Mirko, and Best Jeanist have to protect Bakugo as he's aiming to be the #1 hero. Tamaki emerges from the rubble, and in an added shot, Tamaki sees Yue destroyed and tells Hado he wanted to have a proper graduation ceremony. Mirio, coming from underneath the coffin in the sky, tells Tamaki that once the battle is over, they'll have Principal Nezu throw one for them. Tamaki responds asking if they even stand a chance, and Mirio states if nothing else, until Deku arrives, they will protect everyone with their triple threat power, as Yue's big three get ready to take on Shigaraki. Switching over to Bakugo, he falls to the ground as Shigaraki puts his foot on Bakugo's head. Shigaraki says that Deku is bound to show up and that his quirks being erased was a blessing in disguise. Bakugo tries to attack Shigaraki with his strafe panzer, but Shigaraki picks Bakugo up with his foot, destroying his last remaining gauntlet, and grabs Bakugo by the neck as his panzer fires off over Shigaraki's head. Shigaraki tells Bakugo that because of his quirks being erased, he won't turn into dust and his dead body will remain intact. He remembers back during the PLF war when Deku raged because of Bakugo being stabbed and wants to leave Bakugo's body as a present so he can rage again, thus making him become sloppy during the fight. Shigaraki tells Bakugo that he admired All Might and it's time for him to have a reality check, as no matter the heights he'll reach, he would never be more than just a piece of shit compared to One For All. Here, the anime doesn't adapt the entire page of panels showing a visualization of Shigaraki's hands and fingers covering and breaking Bakugo's entire body. In the manga, this what-if visualization was pretty graphic, so most likely it wasn't included in the anime for censorship reasons, and was replaced with just showing Shigaraki talking down to Bakugo. Nejuri fires off her Nejuri wave pike at Shigaraki, and Shigaraki quickly moves Bakugo in the direction of the wave, forcing Nejuri to change its direction in order to not hit Bakugo. Distracted by Nejuri, Shigaraki is then stabbed by two scorpion tails, as we see Tamaki had used his vast hybrid octopus mirage, which allowed him to turn invisible, plus scorpion toxin, which allowed him to form the scorpion tails that stabbed Shigaraki to inject him with poisonous venom. Shigaraki, realizing that he's been poisoned, his body adapts to this change, forming a mouth on his arm, spitting out all of the venom from his body. Shigaraki unleashes a massive amount of hands at the heroes that now have mouths on them. Shigaraki tells the heroes that his body continues to adapt and that nothing can bring him down. In this scene, we get some added shots of Nejuri flying away from the hands and Tamaki running away from the hands as well. Mirio, permeating through all of Shigaraki's hands, snatches Bakugo away from Shigaraki. The anime adds in Shigaraki turning around to Mirio with Bakugo still in his arms. Mirio throws Bakugo in the air as Best Jeanist's threads catches Bakugo, saving him. Shigaraki tells Mirio that he's seen him before back in Jakku, and Mirio tells Shigaraki that he is Lemillion, the hero on messenger and bodyguard duty. Mirio permeates through all of Shigaraki's hands and asks Shigaraki why he destroys. Shigaraki responds saying because the current organizational structure has failed. Nejuri comes in, sending down a Nejuri wave to Mirio, comboing both of their powers together, with the waves enhancing and wrapping around Mirio's arm, as Mirio says that he gets it. It's because Shigaraki never had any friends. Shigaraki hears this and is surprised. Mirio thinks to himself that he can't do hard-hitting damage to Shigaraki despite being able to get close to him, so that's why he has to escort Nejuri's waves to point-blank range in order to really hit Shigaraki with something strong. He continues to tell Shigaraki that if he did have friends, he would realize that there is plenty of things he shouldn't destroy, as he hits Shigaraki with Nejuri's wave. The anime adds in a shot of Mirio as he thinks to himself that until Deku arrives, he won't let Shigaraki do anything. Switching over to Best Jeanist and Bakugo, Jeanist tells Bakugo to let him suture his arm as they still need his firepower. Bakugo slowly rises as tears fall onto his hand. Jeanist notices Bakugo crying and asks for his arm again and changes the plan, telling Bakugo that they will figure something out later, that Bakugo was stationed here because of his previous encounters with Shigaraki, but Shigaraki is far too powerful to where his experience against Shigaraki isn't useful anymore. He tells Bakugo that he's done done a great job and has done enough in the fight. Not only does the anime add a scene of Mirko fighting Shigaraki, but this moment shows that Best Jeanist had a reality check, as despite the current situation and going against the world's most dangerous villain, that Bakugo is still a teenager who got thrown into fighting a war, and he really does care for Bakugo and doesn't want to see him suffering anymore. But Bakugo isn't just any normal teenager, he's dynamite. As Best Jeanist finishes talking about benching Bakugo, it's revealed that through all of Bakugo's pain, he's studying Shigaraki and the way that he fights, as the anime adds in both Mirko and Edgeshot fighting Shigaraki. Seeing Bakugo laser focused on the fight, Best Jeanist is shocked as Bakugo is still in the fight despite his current condition. Switching back to Shigaraki, the anime adds in Shigaraki and Mirio on the ground, as Mirio, after hitting Shigaraki, tells him that if he had friends, he wouldn't be destroying everything. Inside of Shigaraki, a young Tenko Shimura is surrounded by hands. The hands that grab Tenko on his face and head are referencing the hands All For One gave Tenko that suppressed his memories. Tenko then looks up and thinks about his friends from his childhood. Shigaraki, in an almost childlike manner, yells at Mirio saying that he does have friends, mentioning Mikun and Tomo and how they thought of him, as well as Mon, his dog that liked to go on walks with him. This outburst shocks Mirio as he gets swept away by Shigaraki's hands. Mirio feels bad for Shigaraki as he seemed to have touched a sensitive topic, but more importantly, he learned that he couldn't scratch Shigaraki at his core because it was way too strong. Shigaraki thought his body was complete, forming the perfect unification of both Shigaraki and All For One, but within himself, his body split that hadn't been completely melded with his body. That, of course, being Tenko Shimura. Tenko was the reason his body refused to decay the ground at the start of the war. Realizing this, Shigaraki, not wanting to drag the fight out any further, makes his way towards Bakugo, and Mirio tries to distract Shigaraki. Mirio thinks back to earlier as he tells Tamaki that he is going to buy time for him if he can't do any damage to Shigaraki. Best Jeanist tells Shigaraki to do his worst, and Shigaraki talks down on him as he already took a hit earlier and should be barely conscious right now. Nejiri sends down waves as the anime adds in Mirio, Mirko, and Edgeshot trying to distract Shigaraki or destroy the many hands. Shigaraki tells the heroes that they built a tomb for themselves to lie in, as the coffin in the sky was meant for Shigaraki, but he is completely overpowering them all. Shigaraki's hands head straight towards Nejiri as she has a flashback to her life before meeting Mirio and Tamaki. The anime here adds an entire scene of her in middle school being curious about her classmates' quirks. The students felt that since she had a powerful quirk that she was looking down on the rest of them, and we then jump ahead in time to her at UA. In the manga, when she gets called out by someone about her looking down on the rest of them, it was over a blacked out panel, so this added scene is such a great addition that provides context as to why she is so emotionless when starting at UA. Nejiri states that whenever she got curious and wanted to know more about others, she ends up driving them away. A shy Tamaki asks Nejiri which hero she was a fan of, giving her the same thumbs up Mirio gave him all the way back when they were children. And the anime adds in Nejiri getting emotional as someone was actually curious and wanted to know more about her. She excitedly gets up to Tamaki and asks him a series of questions. It's because of Tamaki asking her that simple question she got to learn all about both Tamaki and Mirio, and finally becoming her true self again, with the anime adding in a shot of Mirio permeating through his clothes as Nejiri laughs and Tamaki being shocked by Mirio. Back to the present, Nejiri, knowing Tamaki's vast hybrid strength, knows that it takes time for it to power up. As we see, Tamaki has combined everything he's eaten plus Nejiri's energy into a vast hybrid plasma cannon. Since the more he eats, the more his potential grows, Mirio states that Tamaki's quirk has no limit, so he is the only one that could land a meaningful hit on Shigaraki. Sun Eater, charging up his plasma cannon, realizes that if he fails, everyone will die and it will all be over, as he thinks about Fat Gum, Kirishima, Tetsu, and Mirio back when they were in middle school. Tamaki thanks everyone as he is about to shoot Shigaraki. Shigaraki turns to Sun Eater and sends a wave of hands towards him as Sun Eater fires off his plasma cannon, destroying Shigaraki's hands and engulfing Shigaraki in the beam. Shigaraki sends out more hands to reach Tamaki, but Mirio punches Shigaraki in the face as the beam blasts out of the coffin in the sky and continues to hit Shigaraki. As the smoke clears up, the anime adds in the heroes catching their breaths, but Shigaraki sends out more arms from behind the smoke, attacking the heroes once again. Coming out of the smoke, Shigaraki tells the heroes to use their heads, as something so pathetic as that wouldn't have been enough to kill All Might in his prime. Bakugo finally takes a stand and begins walking towards Shigaraki, telling Best Jeanist to look after the others. Shigaraki stares at Bakugo and Bakugo says that he has to win, talking to Deku as if he was there. Best Jeanist tries to stop Bakugo, but Bakugo instantly blasts straight towards Shigaraki, unleashing an explosion in his face. Analyzing Shigaraki's moves from earlier, he predicts his attack and dodges it, shocking the heroes. Here the anime adds in the reactions of Nejiri, Edgeshot, Sun Eater, and Mirko. Shigaraki goes in for another attack, but Bakugo is already behind him. In narration, we learn that Bakugo's quirk allows his sweat glands to produce a nitroglycerin-like liquid that he can detonate on command, but the cluster move he invented had a side effect that he didn't even know about. The act of storing up sweat and releasing it into launchable beads was extremely hard on his sweat glands. With Bakugo focused on winning, he kept storing the balls of sweat to the point they were forced to find other exits and leaked out of his entire body, and in turn the explosions all around his body gave him more speed. During the narration, the anime added in shots of Bakugo's hand showing the balls of sweat leaking out of his hand, Bakugo surrounded by all of his explosions, and Bakugo from the back. Bakugo thinks to himself that his whole body hurts, and he thinks about Deku and how he battled through the pain, fighting while trying to spot the enemy's tics and habits, and he asks Deku if he could still catch up to him. Shigaraki, turning around to Bakugo, wonders why Bakugo of all people is the one to piss him off the most, as he doesn't even have One for All. The All for One side of Shigaraki thinks about the second user of One for All and begins panicking. Now, when Shigaraki thinks of the second user of One for All in the manga, he only sees a blurry version of the second pop up in his head, whereas the anime changes this to a full-on memory to the day All for One actually beat the second user of One for All. To me, the manga's version makes the most sense as to why he begins to panic, because it feels more like Bakugo triggering something within Shigaraki rather than a full-on flashback of the second, since that doesn't happen till way later in the series. Shigaraki attacks Bakugo and he says that he will destroy him. Bakugo is then taken to a sort of vestige / quirk afterlife, where he is confronted by the vestige of All Might. The reason why he sees the vestige of All Might instead of an actual physical representation of All Might is not only because he is connected to All Might in the way of being inspired by him, but because Bakugo at one point was the temporary 10th user of One for All back during the events of the Heroes Rising movie. Forming that connection with One for All and having an even bigger connection to All Might is most likely why All Might's vestige is the one that appears before Bakugo instead of anyone else. It's pretty much hinted at here that Bakugo can only communicate with the vestige of All Might or the dead, as no one who is physically still alive, like All Might himself, ever comes to Bakugo while he's in this state. In a very touching moment, Bakugo, seeing All Might's vestige, talks about how when they first met, he was a brat going through some things and never got the chance to ask All Might to autograph his rare All Might trading card, with the anime adding in a shot where Bakugo looks up to All Might before his heart explodes as Shigaraki punches Bakugo in the chest. All the heroes all join together to try and stop Shigaraki and save Bakugo, but it was too late. Upon impact, everyone is blown away, with Bakugo's body being sent flying past Best Jeanist, landing on the ground as his All Might trading card lands beside him. It begins raining as we hear a weather report discussing the sudden change in weather due to a drastic rise in temperature disrupting the weather patterns. The anime here adds in a weatherman discussing the weather report. Bakugo's mom sees the weather report and stated that Bakugo hates the rain. Shigaraki talks down on Bakugo, stating if he really thought he was going to win, and the anime adds in shots of the heroes all recovering after being blasted away. Best Jeanist runs to Bakugo to try and save him, but he realizes that his heart is destroyed. Monoma and Aizawa are in complete shock, while the reactions of Mirko and Mirio are removed from the anime. It rains even harder as the episode ends, with Bakugo lying on the ground, dead. Now, the episode covers a total of 3.5 chapters, then being the rest of chapter chapter 359, chapters 360, 361, and 362. This was a wild episode filled with emotions, fantastic animation, and the death of Katsuki Bakugo. Overall, this episode was absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to see the next one. Let me know your thoughts on the episode. Did they cook with the changes? Let me know everything in the comment section below. With that said, if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to Detroit smash that like button, and if you are new to the Kidaroki channel, then be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia Season 7 breakdowns. With that said, I'll see you all in the next one.